Welcome back, I'm Tedward. Welcome to a beautiful summer day, and welcome to the 2024 Suburban High Country. But this one has a Duramax diesel. Did you even know that they still made diesel Suburbans? Because I did not. And if you're thinking, man, this guy's not keeping track of the auto industry. Well, I am not a parent of 10 children, nor do I own a limousine company. So I'm not really keeping track of Suburbans, but the fact that this can come with an available 3-liter inline-6 turbo diesel, now I'm interested, because diesel means range. It only has 277 horsepower, so if that number makes you very sad, don't worry, it still has torque, and you can't really ever measure diesels just by their horsepower ratings, because this still has over 400 pound-feet of torque, and it matches that of the V8 that's also offered. This one is in the High Country spec, so it's like top trim. This one, as optioned, is like $94,000. But believe it or not, optioning the diesel engine takes almost $2,000 off of the price. You can get the diesel on pretty much every trim level except for Z71, and in some trim levels it adds money, in other trim levels it removes money. So you got to make some choices. But we're taking this on a road trip today because, ooh, wait a minute, we got to show that again. We love a step. We're taking this on a road trip today down to Connecticut because Sacrilege Motors invited me to drive their new electric Porsche. They're kind of like the Singer of electric Porsches, and I figured this is the perfect opportunity to drive like 400 miles in this Suburban. Now, here's the thing. I really like Suburbans, and this is so sort of under the radar. If you want the big flashy guy, you get yourself a Denali, you go the GMC route, but the Suburban, it just looks pretty subtle, especially in this blue. And the reason I'm so excited to drive this on the highway for a little road trip today is because of the ride quality. Whenever I go to a press event, so what happens is, you know, there's a launch of a car, they invite a bunch of journalists or YouTubers or TikTokers out to drive the thing. You land at an airport and you get picked up, and usually they pick you up in a limo, and it's just some limo service. When you get a Ford product, a Lincoln Navigator, sometimes they look brand new, super nice, and you're like, man, I am a VIP today. You get in the back seat and you drive 2 hours to Santa Barbara or whatever to go see the car. But man, every time I'm in those like Lincolns, I feel like I'm in a pogo stick. It's just, they're so harsh. I can't believe that they're selling these things. And if you don't believe me, go get in like a Ford Explorer ST. Meanwhile, here we have Chevrolet making this insane air suspension on this Suburban High Country, and it can raise and lower. It is so luxurious. And with the diesel, you get 27 miles per gallon with a 28-gallon tank. So we're over 700 miles of range of cloud-like luxury. Part of this is due to the air suspension. There's only 2 trims with the air suspension. There's mag ride and others. But another part of it is because we've got some sidewall on these 275s. They're a 50 aspect ratio tire. These are not the prettiest wheels. They're actually kind of ugly, I gotta say. They're not my favorite. But again, you know, take the good with the bad. You can always replace them if you needed to. Let me show you around a little bit because, like I said, you're not shopping for this if you're just like a single person who like exists in the world. You're buying this because you have to fit a lot of people in something. Either you have a livery company that you need to put a bunch of people in the back, or you've got a bunch of kids and you just don't want to be near them while you're driving. In the rear, this one has these optional insane TVs. I mean, those are pretty stellar. And there's the headsets in here. Back here, you've got HVAC controls, heated rear seats, tons and tons of cup holders, lots of air and light coming into this cabin, and in the rear, not so tight back there. You've actually got some legroom for that third row. We've got a classic hatch, but we also have this. So you, like my GX, you can open that up, which is really nice. I love having a split hatch design. So that's good for camera crews if you really needed it. And it's kind of cute because you see your wiper in there. It goes through the glass. Look at that. Huh, pretty trick stuff. Okay, and then pretty standard classic Suburban stuff, a bajillion cubic feet of, don't quote me on that, of storage space back here. And this is kind of fun. When we open this, I'm so used to like electric cars now when they send me electric cars, but what you get is this cable because we've got a block heater. You got a block warmer, so you can warm up your diesel block before you start it in the winter. Who doesn't love that? Feels like Fargo in here. But you got to hear the thing. So let's start it up. You hear that? It's smooth. It's not some big clunky diesel V8 like, you know, you get in the HDs. A little bit of top end chatter. But it's really subtle and quiet. No one's gonna look at you like, oh my goodness, what is that filthy thing you're driving around? No, it's like a balanced inline six. You'd have no idea. So let's jump on the road and test out some Super Cruise driving on the way down to drive an electric Porsche. How strange. Let's get a start up from inside the vehicle. Foot on the brake. We've got our engine start stop button over here. And kind of an old style infotainment system in the Burb. That is not great. Everything's basically been updated in the Chevy lineup. So when you get into a Chevy Colorado or a Sierra or whatever, like, you get a pretty big screen. This is old. So if you can't live with that, like, just wait till the next one. But I just don't think about it. It's not something that even bothers me, but it is something that is like instantly noticeable and older when you get in the truck. We know we've got Super Cruise because this little guy is instantly recognizable. Transmission controls right here, so we can throw it into reverse. We get our top-down view, our rear camera, all that good stuff. And then, you know, there's no stick in the middle or anything. You wouldn't expect it to. It would either have one of these guys on the column or something like this. Tons and tons and tons of storage space. And it's just, I feel wasteful a little bit because it's just carrying me to Connecticut right now. We've gone down maybe like 1/8 of a tank and it still says 576 miles of range. Not something either of my other vehicles can do, or any of them really. Parking brake over here. Man, there's a slew of buttons. This, you got to study it a little bit to figure it out. Let's see if we can't beat the Copart hauler. Jeez. Always big old trucks down here. Out on the road, the first thing you notice is how quiet it is in this cabin. It's really well insulated. There's not a whole lot of road noise. We're not going very fast yet. We'll see how it is on the highway, but this air suspension just soaks everything up. It raises and lowers depending on different situations. So if you're like encountering some off-road excursion, no offense to Chevrolet for using that word, you can raise it up so you're not gonna like slam an oil pan or a differential off of a rock. And when you park it, it lowers to help your tiny little kids get out of this giant school bus of a vehicle. The 10-speed can sometimes feel a little busy, but it still gets up and goes darn quick. I mean, and because you've got all this low-end torque from the diesel, you can make some maneuvers in this that I really appreciate. See how she gets off the line. Not a drag car, however, plenty of go. Plenty. Like, this is enough. You don't need more of this in a Suburban. If you do, then you buy an Escalade V and you just call it a day. Don't come complaining about this. You're getting 27 miles per gallon out of this diesel. So if you need more, sacrifice the fuel and buy yourself the big boy. But let's get it out on the highway. Oh, this ride quality is so good. And I kind of like the old school interfaces of this because I still have really easy touch controls for things like the HVAC system. I don't want to have to look for stuff. I just want to change my volume. I want to change my fan speed, and it's all right there. We'll beat the Jeep. Look at that. And then let's see, Super Cruise is unavailable right now. Now that we're out on the open road, we can turn on Super Cruise. And this is hands-free driving. I'm allowed to take my hands off the wheel. This is unlike pretty much anything else on the market where you've got to hold your hands on the wheel and it'll bark at you. No, this is going to do its adaptive cruise control thing. Let's see. It's going to do an automatic lane change for me. We can get around traffic at speed. I still think you should always keep your hands pretty close just because I do believe you're responsible for the accident if something does go awry. It's not a It's not a liable robot. And at like 75, 80 miles an hour, this is so comfortable and composed. My Lexus GX is not as composed at these speeds. Like, it feels nice and supple, my Lexus, but what I don't get is like the great steering feedback in the Suburban. It's just so much easier to drive. There's less involvement than what feels like a very trucky truck in the Lexus GX, the old GX, not the new one. I haven't driven the new one yet, but we'll get there. Oh, these seats are fantastic. Look, I'm next to a Kenworth or a Mack truck right now, and I barely hear it. This is really nice. It's gonna insulate you from the world. Look, we've got some Kia boys blasting up the right lane. Classic Rhode Island plate. Right lane at 100. It's exactly what you expect to see. No blinkers, no hezzy. God. Can't believe we share the road with these people, which is why it's nice to be in a Suburban, because if that dude hit me, I'm not even gonna feel him. He's like a little bug on my windshield. Just transporting my hog. 56 miles in at 28.8 mpg. Average speed 72.7 miles per hour. I reset it on the highway, so might be a little skewed just because I didn't drive from my house to the on-ramp to the highway. But honestly, this is just chugging away. I genuinely think that if I kept it at like 68 miles an hour, we'd be seeing north of 30 mpg. That means crazy range. I still have 515 miles on this tank after driving it 56 miles. Higher range than pretty much all of my cars, and I've already used a quarter of a tank. The problem, this is the problem, guys. My bladder is the limiting factor on a road trip. Ooh, big bump. Whoa, that RAV4 was practically airborne, and this did not feel it at all. That's great. The Suburban doesn't need to, but I am caving for comfort. We're gonna pull off here real quick. I just need to do a little bio break. 12 minutes later. Killing my range with the acceleration, but it's kind of fun. Last lane change with Super Cruise before getting off the highway and going on to some back roads. But man, this thing just gobbled up all the miles. The seat is so comfortable. Super Cruise takes a lot of energy out of driving. Like, it's kind of wild. You think like, oh, who needs this technology? And you don't need it, but it's kind of the difference between like flying first class and Comfort Plus. You know, there is a level of arriving with more energy than you anticipated, because sure, you're on the same flight, you're on the same plane, you're on the same road, just driving. But when you have to put a little bit less thought and energy into driving, and the car does some of that work for you, it makes like long road trips so much more bearable. Corners pretty well too. Man, this thing is good. The diesel should really just be the default option on these. You should have to select the gas car. Do not need the V8. This thing is, it's like a better Suburban because it's kind of quiet. Like, I know there's joy in like listening to the grumbles of a burb, but there's something really nice about this. I don't trust that you're gonna use the lane correctly. I'm gonna do this nice and slow. This 4Runner's making so much room for me. Thank you. That was very nice of them. Or they just really, okay, that's funny. Dude, I love driving out in the country. Bear butter sounds gross. At low speeds, it's largely unremarkable, which is probably a compliment because the transmission doesn't have any weird hiccups. It just kind of does what you ask it to do. It takes a second to like build some of that torque, but for what you're using this for, it's not meant to be sporty. It's just meant to be smooth and efficient and pull things. And it feels like it could do that. And now it makes me long for a 6.6 liter Duramax diesel Suburban HD. I would love to see one of these in like a 2500 or 3500 trim. I know the world doesn't necessarily need it, but I think it would be cool. So I know we're used to super cruising on highways and stuff, but it knows roads. Like, it's not just guessing. It's not just like a Tesla. It kind of just says, oh yeah, I got this. I can see the white line. Super Cruise, they map out roads. So like, it only can super cruise on certain roads, which means that when it goes green, when this is green and it does this, it is fully confident and aware of where it is and what it's doing. And that's wild, because we're on like a normal B road right now. This is not some highway where it just has to go straight. Like, it has to navigate this actual bend, this actual turn. It's doing a pretty darn good job. Now, this is where I feel like I get more stressed out than relaxed by Super Cruise, because now I'm watching it and I'm like, are you okay? Are we doing okay? I don't necessarily love the idea of that around here. Also, just because you want to be focused on like people coming in and out of driveways or cyclists or things like that. I'm much more confident and comfortable with these types of systems in a highway environment, but not necessarily in these B-road environments. But I've got to say, like, for the future, if this is where we're going, like, it's pretty impressive that it'll do this with confidence. It's like a real turn. It drives a little nervous. You can see it moving around a bit, but yeah, it's doing it. I'm like, look up, it doesn't like it. It's disengaged on me. No road information. All right, we hit the limit. That's looking promising. I see a wrecked R8 in the back, so this has got to be us. Yeah, okay, definitely Sacrilege Motors if this is what's sitting over here. All right, let's go check this out. We've made it all parked up in the burb, and we're definitely in the right place, because I'm looking around and I'm just seeing sort of 911 carnage. Let's find out if we have found Sacrilege Motors. And there it is. This is the 964 America Roadster converted into an electric car. Look at this. They've even retained the fuel filler over here. So these are cool. There's only 250 America Roadsters, but before you get on your high horse yelling about how they sacrilegiously removed its flat six, it was a Tiptronic anyway, so it's okay. It deserved this. And now it's got 500 horsepower, which this absolutely never had before. It was rear-wheel drive. It still is rear-wheel drive, but now it's on these gorgeous fixie wheels, which I would really like a set of these for my 911. The barrels are blue. Got these killer Brembo brakes to make sure that she stops. Look at the clearances on this. Ooh, yeah, that's lovely. Inside, we've got really nice coach work. The leather in this thing is pretty wonderful, but the feeling of being in a 964 still retained pretty much completely. And I'm curious, look at this gauge cluster. All different because there's no tachometer. So that's your power and regen. Over here is your battery level, motor temp, battery temp, speedo, and there you go. There's some extra electrical stuff for your regular 12-volt system and the EV battery. So now I've got to go take this out for a drive and find out what it's like to drive an electric air cooler. I don't even know what to call it because it's kind of strange. It's not an air cooler. I guess it's still somewhat air cooled, but yeah, this is going to be a trip. I have another, 2.5 hour drive home, and this Suburban on its air suspension with this diesel engine is so relaxing and luxurious. And we don't always look at Chevrolet as like a luxury brand, because they're not. They have luxury brands. They've got the more luxurious GMC and Cadillac, so get yourself an Escalade or a Denali. But I'm pretty sure only Z71 and High Country get the air suspension, and Z71 is not available with the diesel. It's the only trim level that doesn't have a diesel option. So I do think that you maybe want to spend the extra cash if you want air suspension and a diesel, and then you get absurd range and a really, really, really luxurious ride. Which is not to say that the other suspensions are bad, but I just think that this maybe is superior. Just like that, we're taking the last exit off the freeway to get home. This Suburban just evaporates miles. It is so good on the highway. The seat's comfortable, the driving is engaging, but really effortless. I mean, if you have driven a GX460 like mine, you know that it takes effort. You know that there's a little bit of energy that goes into just kind of keeping it in a straight line on the road. But in this Suburban, the ride quality is like ultra luxurious. This air ride is phenomenally soft and agreeable. Auto start stop in a diesel, that is still the strangest thing in the world to me. And I think the diesel engine it's plenty pokey. It's got a ton of torque, so there's never been a situation in which I was like, man, this thing's underpowered, I wish I had the V8. Like, no, it's loaded with torque, and it's pretty responsive, and the 10-speed does a good job keeping it within the power band. 260 miles clocked at 29.7 mile per gallon average, according to the vehicle. I don't know what to tell you. This is the perfect highway car. I would drive this across the country, like, happily. There are a lot of vehicles that, you know, seem good, seem fun. You drive them for a little bit and they're kind of exhausting. I can't believe how unexhausting this thing is when you look at the size of it. I mean, I am driving a small apartment in the rear once we come to a complete stop. I mean, look at this. This is a full family on vacation, 1,000-mile road trip, and everyone has their own space. Everyone's comfortable. It's quiet, so when you go by trucks, it's not scary or invasive. The sound system is phenomenal. Everything's ergonomic and easy, and you've got Super Cruise to do some of the work for you and just take a little bit of the workload. Again, I think the diesel should be the default option. If you're buying a Suburban, just get the diesel. Just 100% get the diesel. This is the way. And yes, diesel costs more than regular fuel, but diesel right now is only around the same price, maybe even a little cheaper than premium gasoline. So you pay for 93 on some high-end luxury thing, or you pay for diesel in this and get like ridiculous fuel economy. This is doing better than my friggin' Honda Civic Type R. So anyway, that's the deal. I'm just blown away, impressed. It's not cheap. This one's close to $100,000. We're at like 94 grand MSRP, but you can do it cheaper. You just gotta sacrifice the air suspension if you go down some trim levels. But I would have no qualms, and I bet this thing is stout. I bet this thing lasts for hundreds of thousands of miles. If you want to be flashy, you get yourself a Cadillac, but this to me, I think, really does it, because outside, totally chill, subdued. Inside, luxury. I've got every feature I need, minus I don't think this has massage seats. If I find out it does later, I'm gonna be so mad that I didn't use it the whole drive. No, it doesn't. I don't see the button. But yeah, that's gonna do it for me. Thank you guys so much for coming on a little drive down to Connecticut with me in this burb. I kind of want to just go on another road trip before this is over. And yeah, don't forget to respect the drive, and I'll see you in the next one.